Hey guys, it's John with CheatSheetPros, looking at some college football bets for Halloween weekend, drinking some coffee on Thursday morning on Article Day. I'm going to roll over the ESPN games here. We're going to go down the ones I like. I have 5 in the article, but I'm going to go over more than that in the YouTube video to give the YouTube watchers a little bit of a bonus. This is the NCAA cheat sheet. You'll notice something a little different than the one on the website. Over here, I have a percentage difference in power rating. And then also, I tweaked the skew model a little bit, made it a little bit cleaner, and pulled some different numbers. And I really like some of the stuff that it's spitting out. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're just going to roll down the list and hit some games by games and go ahead and talk about them. So the first one, I've got Cincinnati over Tulane. The line here per ESPN's 25.5. PFF has it minus 35. We've got it minus 24. If you take a middle of these two, it gives you Cincinnati minus 30. I like that. I think that's a pretty fair number. And then down here on the new skew model, we've got it around 47-16. Cincinnati winning by 31 points. Both teams putting up 372, 424 yards of offense. So doing decent despite Tulane's offensive woes. But defensively, that's what we really focus on in this game. Cincinnati's only allowing 305.5 yards per game, and then Tulane 539 yards per game. So 230-ish yards per game more is going to be great for Cincinnati, especially after that struggle they had last week. They're really going to want to come out, put some points on the board, show that they're a dominant force. Cincinnati is 7-0. They're plus 25. They're winning an average of 41 to 15.8 points. And then Tulane is 1-6. They're negative 20.3 points. And they're losing their average games 25 to 46 points. We have a lot more yardage for Cincinnati. Obviously, better YPP, which is generating the 30-point spread number, which is better than the 25.5. And then over here, we got the point-wise sheet where we go through and we can see what they did last week, games, trends, all that good stuff, power rankings. And looking at Tulane, that's the one that I had pulled up here. Tulane gave up 612 yards to SMU last week and 55 points and 31 first downs. So I think it's safe to say Cincinnati should be able to do the same thing. And then let's go down here and look at the recent game logs for Tulane. Can't remember if I wrote those in the article or not. QRST, there it is, Tulane. So Tulane lost to SMU 55-26. They lost to Houston 40-22. And then they gave up 52 points to East Carolina. So look, they're giving up 55, 40, 52 points the last 3 games. So I think this is a good get-right game for Cincinnati. I like picking on bad teams, if you haven't noticed that, if you followed us for a while. And then Cincinnati, let me find them. Where did they go? They've got to be right here in front of me. Okay, here they are, Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, tough game against Navy last week. I don't think they were expecting everything they got. They won 27-20, but they were almost a 30-point spread. UCF, they beat 56-21. They beat Temple 52-3. Notre Dame was a tight game, but won 24-13. Indiana 38-24 when Indiana was playing good. So I like laying the points here. Cincinnati minus 25.5. Let's go on. Now, this game interests me. I didn't write a pick or anything up on it in the article, but I want to run over and kind of show you some stuff that's jumping out at me. So PFF money has a lot of money on Michigan State. The line is Michigan minus 4. And so when I'm looking at this, we have a couple different things that's being spit out in the algo. So PFF has it about 3.5. We've got Michigan favored by 10. Offensively, both teams are about the same in yards per game. Defensively, though, Michigan State's giving up a lot more points than Michigan. Michigan has the better defense. So right now, I'm leaning on Michigan minus 4. I have not bet it yet, but it's one that I'm considering. Both teams, great record, great YPP. We've got them projected 16.3, 16.45 YPP, so about the same. But the yardages, we have Michigan with 100 to 150 more yards, so easily covering the 4 points if you're doing it off the YPP. So that's one game I was looking at. Iowa, Wisconsin is kind of another one. That one's back and forth. Texas, Baylor. I want to go ahead and jump in and take a look at this game. So Texas Baylor is going to be a big game this weekend. We have Baylor -3, and both our spreads, it's 2 points either way, depending upon which way you want to go. Both teams are almost equal in power ranking. Baylor is at home, and then even their YPP numbers down here, and then their plus-minus numbers, these teams are almost identical. So our model has this roughly about the same yardage, 429 to 406, and then we've got it about a 2-point game with Baylor squeaking out a 30-28 win. So I'm curious to see where this one goes. These teams are almost identical across the board except for defense. Baylor's been playing a little bit better, only allowing 345 yards per game. So that's one that I'm looking at that I think will be a fun game. Let's flip down here. A lot of money on Pittsburgh. Rutgers, Illinois. This is a game that I was saving for the YouTube video that I wanted to look at. It wasn't one of my top 5. So Rutgers, Illinois. So Illinois right now, they're a 1.5 point dog. So Rutgers is favored in this game. So this is one that kind of jumped out at me. Our algo has pretty much pick 'em. PFF has Rutgers -1. Power ranking, both teams are about the same. Flipping over here in our model, we got 23-21 Rutgers, so nothing to really indicate a play when you're looking at this, but one thing that did jump out to me is last week when Illinois beat Penn State. Let me pull it up. Illinois, Okay, here we go. Okay, here it is. So Illinois versus Penn State. So last week they beat them in OT 20-18, but what really jumped out at me right here was Illinois took them in first downs 25-12, rushing yards 357-62, total yards almost 400 to 227. So they dominated Penn State across the ball. Now they had an interception and 2 fumbles, so 3 turnovers. Penn State didn't have any turnovers, and then they still outgained them by 180 yards and doubled them in first down. So that was impressive to me because I didn't think Illinois was going to even be able to stay in that game. And then you go and you look at Rutgers. So let's go down here, and they've been on a slide. So Illinois is kind of jumping out at me, but there's nothing in the sheet to show that that would be a playable game. So they got beat by Northwestern, which is a decent team, good, not great. 21-7. Michigan State, they got beat 31-13. Ohio State, of course, much better team, 52-13. Michigan, a solid team, 20-13. So they were playing good up to this Michigan game, and then they just kind of shit the bed. 13-13 and 7 points. The Ohio State game, I don't mind. Ohio State's playing, they're red hot right now. But Michigan State getting beat 31-13 and then 21-7 by Northwestern. I think Illinois can take this game, and they're a dog. So I like Illinois plus 1.5 here. I was impressed by all the stats and everything that they put up last week. So that's a game that I am going to play, but I have not at this time. Scrolling down, Indiana, Maryland, Liberty, UMass. Going up against UMass is just, it's almost an auto play, but the line is 36, so you'd likely have to tease it down. And then looking at UMass, they're one of the, I believe they are the worst team in the league. So they got beat by Florida State 59-3. UConn, they're just as bad. Toledo beat them 45-7. Coastal beat them 53-3. They're just against decent teams. They're just getting rolled, and this is a good get-right game for Liberty. But again, it's a lot of points. When you get up over 34, it's a real tricky number to go with. Buffalo, Bowling Green, kind of scrolling down. Iowa State, West Virginia. So there's another game I like. So I like Iowa State here. This is one of our article games. West Virginia. So we've got Iowa State about 12% better in the power ranking. And what really jumped out at me is Iowa State's better on both sides of the ball. They're putting up more offensive yards, 450 to 370, and then defensively, West Virginia is giving up almost 400 yards per game, and Iowa State scoring only allowing about 260. So if you look down here at our gap model, we've got it projected around 32-18, Iowa State winning by 14. PFF even has it by 10.5. We have it by 12. And when the line was only 7, I was shocked. I figured it would be 9.5, 10, 10.5, but 7, not 7.5, but 7 on the dot. I like that, so I'm laying that one. Iowa State's been red hot recently, and I had, let me look at my notes here for Iowa State. Where are they at? There's so much information in these sheets. So they played Oklahoma State last week. They didn't cover, but they beat a ranked team 24-21. Then they beat Kansas State 33-20. They rolled up Kansas 59-7. So they've been playing really good. Now, the game last week, there was something in the stats I wanted to look at. So let me just go ahead and find it. So Iowa State. Okay, so Iowa State, Oklahoma. So this game last week, Oklahoma State, I think they came in that game. They were ranked like the number 8 or number 9 team in the land, but they took them in first downs, 18-16, total yards 374-332, and Iowa State has a power ranking of 56, and then they go up against West Virginia, who is a much, well, not a strong team, and their power ranking's only 46. So that's going to put them about 10 points over. And I wanted to look at West Virginia's recent games and see kind of how they've been doing. I know I wrote something up in the article. So they beat TCU 29-17. Whoop, whoop. TCU's not good. Baylor rolled them 45-20. And I think Iowa State's more on the level of Baylor. Texas Tech, they lost 23-20 as a 7-point favorite. Oklahoma, they end up playing out of their mind that game and staying in it. So I like Iowa State here. The defense is just, it's just night and day. And with the amount of passing yards that West Virginia is giving up, even though Iowa State's not a big passing team, I think they're going to be able to score at will. I love laying the 7 here. And this 32-18, I really like that. I think that's spitting out a good number. And even if it's, 28-17, 28-20, you're still getting a cover. So we got some wiggle room in there. So Iowa State is one of the games that I do like. Missouri, Vanderbilt. Typically, Vanderbilt is a go-against play every week, but Missouri's rush defense is flipping awful. Georgia, Florida, I have not bet and I did not write up, but a lot of money is coming in on Georgia. And so this line is Georgia minus 14. We've got it at 10. PFF has it at 18. Split it 14. That's right on the Vegas line. Our model has it around 30-16, so 14. So we're so close to the spread, it's not one I'm going to do. Offensive yards doesn't really matter. Georgia is the best defense in the land. They're only allowing 209 defensive yards per game. So if you wanted to tease something, I love teasing Georgia down. But again, Florida hung in that game with Alabama and scored some points at the end. I don't think they can do that with Georgia, but 14 is a lot of points. But this almost did make one of my top 5 plays. So I wanted to put it in there and just kind of discuss it with you. Texas Tech, OU, scrolling down. A lot of money on Oregon. So let's take a look at that one. Oregon and Colorado. Oh, hang on. So got to get the home teams, always got to be the bottom so you get the right home field advantage. So Colorado, so Oregon is significantly better. We got it around 31-16. PFF has it at almost 19. They got it at 23. Line's 24, so it was a little high for me, so it didn't make one of my plays, but I don't mind it. Look at the offensive yards per game. I mean, Oregon's putting up 200 more yards per game. Defensively, they're about the same. Colorado's been struggling a little bit, so it didn't make our plays, but it is one that we were looking at. So I'm going to follow this and see if this has any merit here, because even with the huge difference in points per game, we still had it falling inside the line, but there's no way that I'm going to back Colorado. And let me look at Colorado's recent games. There was something when I was looking at this last night that jumped out at me that pulled me off of this game. So depending upon what time is this, 2:30? Yeah, so it may be one if the noon games go bad that I put it in a parlay or something. Okay, so Colorado lost to California 26-3. They beat Arizona 34-0. SoCal, they lost 34-17. Arizona State 35-13. So they're giving up a chunk of points, but I mean, if this game's 31-10, it's still inside the spread. So I thought the line was a little high. If you love Oregon, though, I don't mind it. Colorado has just not been that good. They've only had a good game here or there. Florida and Clemson. So this is one I was kind of shocked. So the Clemson line opened at 9.5. And this is one of my favorite plays this weekend, or one of my top 4 favorite plays. Florida State and Clemson. All right, so we have so if you look at the numbers here, so PFF and our algo, they both agree. They have Clemson minus 12. Me personally, I disagree. So if you look at this, Clemson on offense, they're horrible. They're less than 300 yards per game. They're 117th in passing yards per game. They're 84th in rushing yards per game. And even though the Florida State defense isn't great, the Florida State offense is putting up 426 yards per game. So if you come down here on our skew model and look at it, it still spits this game out 22-22. So a low-scoring game, which Clemson does have a really good defense. They're only giving up 356 yards per game, 30th least rush yards per game. So their defense is good. Their offense is just garbage. So when this spits it out 22-22, I'm like, okay, even if it's 24-21, 24-17, anything in that range. And then we've got PFF and our algo on the other side. It is a little bit confusing to try to look at and interpret that data. We have both teams about the same YPP projected, 16.6, 16.4. Yardage is about the same. So we have this as a tight, close, low-scoring game. So when you go and you look at the line, you're getting 9.5 points with Florida State. Well, if you look at Clemson's recent games, and Florida State plus 9.5 is the play, just FYI. So here's Florida State over here. So if you look at their recent games, okay, Florida State has scored 59, 35, 33. Now, throw out the UMass game. UMass is garbage. But the other two teams, 35 and 33 points. And then we come over here and we're going to look at Clemson, which is... Scroll. Here it is. All right. So Clemson. So one thing, see this L over here on the side, on the far right? That is their ATS number. So they are 6. They're winless. They have not covered a spread at all this year. And look at their points scored. 17, 17, 19, 21, 14. So the last 5 games, they're averaging less than 19 points per game, and you're getting 9.5 with Florida State that's putting up a mad amount of points. I really like that. I think they can hang in there. I think Clemson's offense is overrated. And then let me see what Point-Wise wrote up. I know I read something in here about the QB. So they wrote, say, from a moneymaker to a money burner for backers of Tigers who've yet to cover, minus 39 points, last 8 outings with QB, however you say his name, 107th in passing efficiency, 4 TDs, 5 picks. So... yeah, and then they got Knowles on fire, 202 plus rushing yards, 6 of last 7, plus 27.5, plus 20.5 points ATS last 2 games, but the chalk is 19 and 10 against the spread in Florida State games. So that's that, but the chalk, I don't worry about that stuff. I'm looking at the actual games, the teams. I don't care about what they've done the last 5 years. These kids were never even here. So I like Florida State plus 9.5. I think that's a solid play. Minnesota Northwestern. Minnesota is another play that I got turned on to and kind of dug in. Oh, if I could spell Minnesota right. Minnesota. All right, Northwestern. Okay, so here we have Minnesota, about 11% better team. When we're looking at this, Northwestern's offense, 367, 360, so they're about the same. Defensively, Minnesota, the key is here. So they're only allowing 302 yards per game, so they're almost like a poor man's Georgia defense. And then Northwestern's giving up 461 yards per game. So we go down here to our little skew model, and we got it about 450 to 300 and 30 to 18, them winning by 12. And what I like about this is the PFF and the algo line both have this over the Vegas spread. So I've only followed top 25 games, but it's been pretty successful when both of these models are over the Vegas spread. Minnesota's minus 7.5. So even if you put it on a small teaser and tease them down to win by pick 'em, -1, -1.5, I like that, but I'm going to go ahead and just make a straight bet and lay the 7.5. Northwestern's been giving up a lot of points. Northwestern's given up 28 points per game, and then Minnesota's only allowing 19 points per game. So, yeah, you can dig in here, look at the numbers, but Minnesota's going to be a strong play no matter what you look at. And with the PFF, our algo line, and then our skew model both spitting out a cover, I'm going to go ahead and go with it and just kind of move on, try to find another game. So going down the list, Duke Wake Forest. So this was on my list. I think this was my 5th game on the article, and they're in order of favorite. And I was between SMU and Wake Forest. So Wake Forest, what scares me about this game is it's a 17-point spread. PFF has it at 14. We have it at 23. So if we split it, we're really close to the Vegas line. Offensively, both teams have been putting up a lot of points. Defensively, they've been giving up a lot of yards. What worries me here is the Wake Forest defense, but they've been playing so well over recent games. It's something I had to jump on. So even our skew model here has it at 41-23, has them winning by 18. The spread is 17, so it's really close to that number. But what jumps out at me, and let's go take a look at it. So, well, first let's look at Wake Forest last week because they just put up an absolute shit ton of points. So Wake Forest and Army, so they rolled up Army 70-56, and then they took them and they put up 640 offensive yards, but they gave up 597 yards to Army. So they are going to give up some points. So that's always hard laying double digits when you're looking at that. So when we go down here and we look at Wake Forest, that's NFL. All right, we go down here and look at Wake Forest. They won 70-56. They beat Syracuse 40-37. Louisville 37-34. So they are scoring a ton of points, but they're also giving up a ton of points if the other team can score them. So the other team only has to be mediocre to get points on the board. But Duke is in a free fall right now. And let me find them. A, B, C, D. Okay, Duke right here. Look at the recent games. So they just lost to Virginia 48-0. Georgia Tech, they lost 31-27. North Carolina, they lost 38-7. So they've scored 0, 27, and 7 points in their last 3 games after starting off red hot. So they started off hot these 3 games against a nobody, Northwestern and Kansas. But then North Carolina put them in check. Georgia Tech, they hung in there. Virginia beat them 48-0. And I think, did Wake play Virginia? Let me pull this up and check it out. Man, there's so many college teams. Okay, yeah. So Wake beat Virginia 37-17, and then Duke got crushed by them. So I like laying the 17 here. So Wake Forest minus the 17 is one of the plays I'm going to go with, even though our model has it pretty close. Oh, coffee's so good in the morning. Kentucky, Mississippi State. That's another game I wanted to touch on. Kentucky. It's a lot of I's and S's in there. So this line, what is that? So UK minus 1.5. So PFF has it at 9.5 Kentucky, and they are very low the majority of the time. Our algo has it pretty much pick 'em somewhere around there. So when you look at the games, both teams have been good on offense. Both teams have been decent on defense. Our model has Kentucky winning 26-23, so about a 3-point edge. YPP, we're almost 2 YPP better with the Kentucky side. And what was it that jumped out at me at this game? I usually make notes, but by the time I get to game 7 or game 8, it's crazy. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at Kentucky. Ah, heck, I'm just going to type it in so I can find it quicker. Kentucky. All right, here we go, Kentucky. So this is what I'm looking at down here. So see all the W's over here? They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're 6-0 ATS on the year. So they have not lost the spread. So the recent games, they got beat by Georgia 30-13, but they played them really well, and they were 22-point dogs, so they slid in a cover there. They beat LSU 42-21 as a 2-point favorite, and then they beat Florida, who is a solid team, as a 7.5-point dog, 20-13. And then South Carolina, that game was 4 games ago. They won, they covered, but it wasn't a pretty game. But 20-13, 24-21, 13-30. So they're playing good football right now. They're undefeated. ATS. And then let's go take a look at Mississippi State. I know that was one of our plays last week, but they were playing Vanderbilt, who is awful, and they beat them 45-6. Alabama crushed them 49-9. And then Texas A&M, they actually beat, so they played a really good game there, 26-22. LSU 25-28. So they've played a lot of close games. So this is one I think it's going to be a close game. I lean Kentucky though. I like the way they're playing right now, but it is at Mississippi State. So I think it's a good spread, but I like picking the tight games and the small spreads. And then let me see here. I think I've got one more game I'm going to go ahead and hit. So SMU Houston, let's go ahead and hit that one. Then we'll wrap this video up so it doesn't get too long. So SMU and Houston, we've got, so the lines pick them, and SMU has just been unbelievable. So they're putting up 531 yards per game, and then Houston's only putting up 350. So we have a much better offense on the SMU side of the ball. But defensively, it flips. Houston's much better. They're only giving up 308 yards defensively, and SMU's giving up 406. So if this game was laying 7, I'd probably stay away from it, but pretty much at a pick 'em, I don't mind it. We've got them winning a 29-27 game. And what I like about SMU, let me flip up here and find them. SMU. So SMU last week against Tulane, they put up 612 yards of offense and 31-18 first downs. They absolutely crushed Tulane, but they did give Tulane over 400 yards, which is a little scary. And then you come over on the other side, and let's look at Houston. So Houston played East Carolina and lost the first down battle 17-16 and only had 256 yards and gave 365 yards to ECU. So then when we come down here and we look at the games, so East Carolina, so they lost to UCF 20-16. They crushed Tulane, which everybody does, but they gave Tulane 29 points. They barely beat Charleston, South Carolina. They barely beat Marshall. So let's see. Let's look at Houston now. All right, so Houston, they squeaked by ECU. They beat Tulane by 18. They annihilated Tulsa. They beat Navy by 8. So Houston's been playing pretty good. But I like SMU here in a pick'em game. PFF even has it by 5. We've got it pretty much pick'em 1-1 either way. SMU is a game that almost made my 5th, but I edged over to, who was my 5th game? Wake Forest in the article. So these are some of the plays that I like, and then this is just kind of a tutorial with plays going down through the cheat sheet of some of the games that we do like and some of the games we're leaning on. But again, everybody that uses the cheat sheet, you find different stuff and different plays. I've had people message me and they look at stuff that I didn't even see and they find plays on it. So that's why I like creating the sheets and letting you guys dig in, find the plays, but I'll always tell you what I like, what I'm leaning on, and what I'm betting. So our free Facebook group is in the description, and I'll be posting the NBA sheets on Thursday for free for everybody to kind of play with, tinker around if you do NBA. Football, I don't do a free sheet except for every couple of weeks just because it's a once-a-week sheet. And it's John with Cheat Sheet Pros. Have a good day.